Bociurkiw, Global Affairs Analyst and Senior Fellow at the Atlantic Council, joins me now live from Odessa in Ukraine. It's fantastic to have the opportunity to speak to you, Michael. Always follow your work with interest. Let's start on those strikes, if I may. Tell us more about the extent of them, the damage that it was caused. You know, we hear about these strikes happening so often now, but really paint a picture for us of what they were like for Ukrainians today.
Sure. Good to be with you, Bianca. Well, this was a massive strike, and we're finding more and more the Russians are moving from overnight strikes to daytime strikes. This one was early in the morning, but went as far as Lviv in Western Ukraine, which is closer to the Polish border. I heard from contacts there that there were loud explosions. Around a dozen or so buildings were damaged, a school, a kindergarten, and elsewhere further east in Ukraine, there were deaths reported. And just yesterday, in another Russian rocket attack, a maternity hospital once again was struck by Russian forces. You may remember they did that in Mariupol. So it's worried officials, but of course civilians here, because we don't know when these attacks will happen. And also they're using a mix of drones, of rockets. And interestingly, Ukrainian officials say there may have been North Korean rockets involved this time.
That is interesting indeed, as we heard in the latter half of last year that North Korea was stepping up its support of Russia via ammunition and military supplies. I'd like to get onto some of that in a moment. But first, what is your view on the aid package that's currently being held up in the United States when it comes to Ukraine, the impact and essential nature of that in order for Kyiv to fend off the Russians or even hold the lines?
Well, it's disgraceful that Republican lawmakers would even consider delaying it. This is money, Bianca, not only earmarked for defense, it's also earmarked for budget support. Currently, there's a $5 billion monthly gap in the Ukrainian budget. They need money desperately. If that money doesn't come, that means that teachers will not get salaries. It means that pensions will not be paid. It also is meant to go towards humanitarian support. I believe it was CNN's Nick Payton-Walsh who said, if that money doesn't come in, it's so crucial that within 2 years, we could see Ukraine fully occupied by Russia. What people have to understand on that side of the Atlantic are two things. Number one, this is a real deal, what the U.S. is doing. With less than 5% of the U.S. Military budget, annual budget, they've enabled Ukraine to disable about 50% of conventional Russian military capability. And of course, the other thing it's going to do is prevent further bottlenecks happening in the Black Sea. We're already experiencing serious bottlenecks in the Red Sea. This could delay further people's Teslas, people's appliances, furniture, this sort of thing. So it's going to hit people everywhere.
Ukraine is obviously already struggling when it comes to numbers, and there will be increasing manpower shortages, especially when we compare it to the numerical superiority of Russia that it's historically always had when it comes to conflict. That also emphasizes the importance of technology. This conflict has been quite novel in the way that it's used drones. And there's also some reports that Russia might be employing autonomous drones as well. What more can you tell us about how technology is changing this war?
Well, you know, Ukraine has not performed well on this long battlefront, and a big reason for that is the drip, 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 drip approach of Western allies. So it's turned to technology, and it's technology that has allowed very savvy strikes on Russian forces, but it's also the very same technology we're talking about that enabled Ukraine to sink that Russian boat, the Black Sea Fleet, the other day. So, you know, they're not expensive. And the other thing that's happening, I mean, before the war, Ukraine had a very robust high-tech sector, especially in Lviv. That is now being repurposed for military purposes. So Ukraine has a very big advantage there, but it isn't going to allow them to achieve victory alone.
You're in Odessa, which is on the Black Sea. Tell us more about what's happening there and Ukraine's success in targeting Russia's Black Sea Fleet.
Sure. Well, in a news story where there's not very much good news, especially along the battlefront, what Ukraine is being able to achieve on the waters is absolutely stunning. Second time in 2 weeks that Ukraine has been able to use these high-tech maritime drones to sink a vessel of the Black Sea Fleet. We're talking about the Caesar Kunikov. It carries troops, tanks, and other cargo, can carry